have we ever chatted about, why it is that you work with me or why you encourage clients to talk to me versus going into where they have their checking account or their
I
savings
think
account?
we've talked about this a lot over the phone recently. I've had some experiences where, I don't have necessarily control over it, but I've had some experiences where I've been on the listing side, and the buyers have been going through an institution that's a large institution, and I've seen those buyers go through some horrible situations that I think could have easily been avoided. Had they really explored other options to get their financing.
So
That's what
most
I think.
real estate agents, most good real estate agents have a team. They have a team of professionals they work with, and the team consists of their homeowner's insurance person that they like and know that treat their clients well, their lender they know and like treat their clients well, a home inspector, a handyman. Most of these people that you deal with, you're going to have them speak to your team, but you're not getting kickbacks.
No,
So I think that's the thing too that people think.
it's true. Yeah, there's a form. There's a form. It's the state of Ohio, especially. I don't know about other states, but we have a form. It's kind of affiliated business disclosure form, and it says that these are the businesses we're affiliated with. We're not getting anything back in return from them whatsoever. If you use those services, it's simply because we've recommended them. We have those affiliations with them, prior relationships with them, and we recommend them, not because there is any sort of kickback to us. That's illegal. That's a violation. That's an ethics violation. So I always recommend the vendors that I work with because of their reputation and how they've treated my clients over the years. And they have to earn that trust because I can't be bought. I'm not going to give you to somebody and trust you with my business and my clients unless you've earned it. And that goes for lending. That's one reason, I've worked with you for a long time because from the very get-go, you have always been totally fine that if a client comes to me and says, well, I want to talk to XYZ, and I say, well, I would love for you to talk to Jessica, but yes, talk to this lender here, or talk to, your bank if that's what you want to do, because I'm never going to pull somebody away from who they initially wanted to go to, but I'm going to encourage them to check out their options as well. And I think that's fair because I don't, like you said, I don't want them to feel like I'm taking them away from somebody for any other reason except for that I want them to make sure they're taken care of properly.
Which leads me to my next question is a lot of times clients, buyers think that they should speak with their bank, who they have a checking and savings with, and may be confused when you try to encourage them to speak to a local mortgage professional like myself, which I just do mortgages. So why would we encourage clients, particularly not to take their mortgage or, get this whole process facilitated with a big bank that they may do checking and savings with? Why would we want them to talk to somebody like myself?
I think you answer right there in the question is that it's the banks are there because that's what they do. They bank. They are there for your investments in terms of your checking and your savings, your CDs, your accounts. They're
Yeah.
holding your
Money
money.
markets.
They're money markets. And, that's their primary goal. Do they have those retirement branches that they can help you with your financial goals? Yes, absolutely. Do they have those mortgage branches where they can talk to you about financing and everything like that? Yes, absolutely. But is it their primary focus? No, their primary focus is managing your money in those accounts. So it kind of becomes a secondary arm of what they're there for. And this is the largest purchase you're ever going to make, right? And if you are trusting somebody with the largest purchase you're ever going to make, and it's the secondary thing that they do at their business, then maybe that's not the best decision. You want that to be the primary thing that they do. That's the only thing that they do. And that's what a broker does. That's what a mortgage broker does. That's what somebody who is independent that can go in and explore all the different options that are out there. That's somebody, I guess what I would probably say is tell me what the difference is in terms of what you do compared to what somebody that is sitting in an office at a bank that has a sign on their door that says lending department.
Yeah. So, I mean, you just had a situation also where your client was in process with a large institution and they just got swallowed up. I mean, they are just a number. Uh, because the banks, this isn't their primary focus, they're not really great at keeping timelines. When you're buying a house, you have a purchase contract with timelines, and they don't care. They just don't care. We'll get to it when we get to it. And, you can call into your blue in face. Like, I've had so many clients that have been turned off, so much so that they want to move their checking and savings when they have gone through their institution for a mortgage. So it's a known problem with a lot of institutions, right?
Yeah, real time example. You mentioned I just went through this. Yeah, I had the seller on this property, and the buyer was going through a large institution. We're not going to name names, but they're here in the area, and it got to the point to where there would be a little bit of movement, and then a request for something, and then nothing. The communication would cease. And then the lender would say, well, I can't get an answer until tomorrow. 24 hours, almost to the dot, would happen before we'd see any sort of movement. And we were already beyond our original expiration date, our original closing date. I mean, there was frustration. There were tears. It was excruciating to watch our clients go through this.
Yeah.
We had a buyer on one side who was working endless hours to achieve the American dream for he and his family, a young buyer. And we had a seller on the other side who was achieving her retirement goal. And both of those were in jeopardy because they, like you said, they were just a number.
I mean, the
And
process is stressful enough, right?
Yeah.
Also, not to mention, how many times have there been a pre-approval out from a larger institution and then a client in contract and then it falls apart after it gets into underwriting? And that's, not to toot my own horn, but I am a total mortgage nerd. And, we look at everything prior to you going out to look at a home because it is devastating if you find a home, win the home, and then can't get it because of some snafu 2 to 3 weeks into the process.
Yeah.
That's also widely known. So when your agent is encouraging you to speak, then you just have to know that it's because we know what your goals and dreams are, and we're going to do what we can to achieve it. And that does not involve certain parties being involved in the transaction. Am I right?
Right. And it's also really easy to get caught up with the shiny object syndrome, just as it's easy to go online and, as realtors, we're not big fans of like the Zillow websites or anything like that. In the lending world, I know that, the big monster out there is like a Rocket Mortgage and things like that. And it's not, you can get caught up. If you were to go onto Google and search for how do I apply for a mortgage? Okay, now you're really going to start getting all these ads on your Facebook, and you're going to go down a rabbit hole, and you're going to have all these different ways to apply for a mortgage by putting in a couple pieces of information online, and you're going to have 1,000 different ways to apply for a mortgage, and you're going to have all this information. You're going to think, this is great. This is really easy. Look how cheap this is. Look how fast this is. None of that means anything because you're just communicating with a computer that's 3,500 miles away. And at the end of the day, if you're also working with that company that's thousands of miles away, they don't know what our customs are here, what our tax preparations are here, how real estate works here. They don't understand any of that, and that causes dilemmas as well. So, that's also something to really take into consideration and be prepared for. So, that's another reason right there. You always want to make sure you're comparing and contrasting, and hey, listen, I'm here to get you into the house. And if you compare and contrast, and at the end of the day, you still come back, and you're sticking to your guns and everything like that. I mean, that's your ultimate decision. And that's I have a fiduciary. Jessica, you're my primary lender and everything like that, but you know that I have a fiduciary and a client. But I will tell you right here on this video screen that less than 0.001% of the time has it ever happened. So I'll just put that out there on video. But yeah, I mean, it's so risky to do that sort of stuff because timing is everything. These contracts have time frames, and you have to trust the person on the other end of that to follow along.
One other piece I would add to this is, and I've done videos on this before, but banks, they like to pick and choose who they're going to give a mortgage to. And they do that by what's called overlays. So, when you get a mortgage, we underwrite that according to the guidelines of whatever loan type you're getting, where FHA, conventional, or whatever. There's a guideline. And banks make a decision as to what their guidelines are going to be. So they're like, yeah, those are the conventional guidelines, but we also want 640 credit score only. And we also want 20% down if this. And they just have overlays. They have extra guidelines. And it leaves consumers leaving deflated often, because you would be surprised. There's so many people that can get a mortgage. The government wants you to own a home. It is a superpower strength of our economy. It is a focus, if you will, of United States of America, home ownership. So those overlays, people will think, oh, I can't buy a home.
Right.
Right? David, have you ever run into somebody with this same thing?
Yeah, no, absolutely, all the time. I mean, there are so many people that I meet that will say, I wish I could buy a home, and of course, my first response is, what makes you think, if you don't mind me asking, what makes you think you can't buy a home? Let's talk
Yeah.
about it. And because if you don't think you can buy a home, let's talk about why, and we'll talk about how we can fix that and put you on the path to buying a house. And so many times I find out that they were just given the wrong information, or they were denied when they shouldn't have been denied, or or they were, like you said, pigeonholed somewhere and not given the option to explore this program over here or something. And so you've heard it before. We've had clients that literally have at closing told us, I never thought I'd be a homeowner, and that's the best feeling in the world. So that's what we're here for. I guess now I kind of got myself all wrapped up in my words by saying that, because that's what you do it for. But that's a great feeling. But banks can sometimes make people feel like it's unachievable, and I think that goes to I see that on the news a lot right now too. You see the headlines saying the dream of home ownership is going down the drain, and more and more consumers feel that they're never going to be homeowners and all that kind of stuff. And while I do think that there are certain parts of the country where that is becoming the bar is maybe a little bit higher than it used to be. I'm not naive to that. It is still definitely attainable. And we help first-time home buyers all the time do that, who 2 months ago thought they would be renting their entire lives. So,
And I'll leave you with this. David is good enough to I don't want to say qualify, but asking questions, he kind of knows. If somebody has that option. I mean, it's easy to
yeah.
figure out, do you have a job? How's your
Yeah.
credit?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
don't have to go through
There's
a full pre-approval
sure.
to know, right?
Sure. Yeah. And there are certain things that, if you're below that too, then I'm not walking away from you. I'm putting you on the path to, well, let's get together. Let's talk to somebody and let's figure out what our first step is, so that in 6 months, 12 months, or whatever it is, we can have this conversation again when you are officially ready to make that move.
Well, as usual, such a timely topic. It's the spring selling season. A lot of pre-approvals out there. If David or anybody is going to encourage you to speak to a mortgage professional, just do it. I mean, it's worth it. It's worth it.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Awesome. Thank you.